Welcome to From That Comes This. I'm your host, Rebecca Foster. Thanks for joining us. On this podcast, we dig into moments that define us, the resilience we uncover along the way, the courage that quietly grows within. Every experience shapes us. Often along the way, we may question why on earth we are on the path we're on. Have you been there? I think you can relate. You're definitely not alone. If you're patient, eventually the why will be uncovered and the lesson received, helping to shape our journey here on earth. Today's guest had a childhood shaped by constant movement across continents. And from this experience comes a deep understanding for our particular guest today of loss, identity, and what it means to truly feel safe. From working on the front lines of global trauma later in life, specifically serving as a trauma counselor with the United Nations in Haiti, this individual has discovered a grounded, nervous system-informed approach to healing and now helping others heal. Today, I'm joined by Marleen Filimon, trauma therapist and founder of Private Matters Psychotherapy, located in Burlington, Ontario, Canada, where she supports people who are navigating trauma, anxiety, and grief. Marleen's work is rooted in the belief that pain doesn't have to define us, but when it's understood and also supported, it can inform our purpose. So, my friends, from that comes this. We're happy to welcome you to the show, Marleen. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I stumbled my way through your intro.
That's all good.
You have a lot of experience to share. Yes. Tell me about your childhood. You were born in the Netherlands?
I was. So both my parents are Dutch. My family's Dutch. So I was born in Holland. And because of my father's work, he worked in shipping, we traveled abroad. So I was 6, going on 7, when we moved to Ivory Coast in West Africa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that a big shock to you as a 6-year-old? Or do you remember?
It was interesting because I guess for some reason my parents thought West Africa was English speaking. So I remember having this private teacher in Holland who taught us English. And my favorite word at that time was clock and zoo. I don't know why, but I kept repeating that for myself. I remember even counting the English words I knew: she, her, him, boy, girl. That's how I was, because my first language is Dutch.
Right, of course.
And we got to West Africa and it was French.
Oh my goodness.
So that was quite a shock, I guess.
So how did you cope with that as a 6-year-old?
Well, I think kids just pick up languages real fast. I do remember my first ever conversation in French because I knew oui and non. And I remember talking to my neighbors in Africa, and I don't even know what they were saying. All I was saying was oui, non, oui, non.
Good words to know.
Right? So, but then after that, I mean, you get fluent real fast. Went to a French-speaking school, French friends, French-speaking friends. So
you had no choice.
I had no choice. I was also not given the option, which I think at that time was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a therapist now, do you think that's a good way to ingrain someone?
It's interesting because as a therapist, you want to give people the choices. Right. However, because of going to West Africa and that experience, I now speak 3 languages.
I was going to say, okay,
so yeah.
Dutch, French,
English.
Impressive. And you can still to this day carry on conversations in Dutch and French.
Yeah, French may be a little more rusty, but yeah, I can.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Mine is too, and we grew up speaking French, and I'm still not bilingual. But anyway, I digress. So from West Africa, then where did you go as a child?
So we went to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. So my dad's work took us everywhere. So he had a post for West Africa for about 2 years. And then we went to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia for 7.
7 years.
Yeah.
So that's a long time.
That was my teenage years, Saudi Arabia.
Oh. But how was that?
I loved it.
Loved it?
Yeah. There were parts that were maybe more difficult. At that time,
what aspect?
Girls were not allowed to go to school beyond the age of 16. At that time. I know now a lot has changed.
Right.
Women were not allowed to drive. We had to wear an abaya, so you had to cover up.
Right.
Girls were not allowed to go anywhere without a chaperone, which could be your dad or your brother or...
So it had to be a male chaperone.
Yeah. But you learn to adapt real fast, and I grew up there doing all the sports under the sun.
Really?
Yeah.
And that was not frowned upon as a female?
Not in the international community.
Okay.
So everything was gated. The school was gated. The school had 2 separate entrances, boys and girls. And you had to go in separately. If you didn't, then you would be called upon by the headmaster and given a
strict
we don't do
talking
that.
to. Yeah.
But inside, I mean, I was part of the swim team, tennis, horseback riding, volleyball, like you name it.
So very privileged opportunities.
Yeah, for sure.
And so were you in school then until you were 16?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Well, I couldn't go to school there, so I had to travel back to Holland.
With your family or by yourself?
They stayed behind.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you went and did the rest of high school in Holland?
I finished high school in Holland, but in that world, the international, I guess, expat community, kids go to boarding school. It's really normal, right? So.
And you had a good boarding school experience, because we hear all kinds of different experiences.
It was okay.
It was okay. Okay. Well, that's
carefully.
maybe another day. You say carefully. But it's still a challenge as a 16-year-old young woman.
It was.
You're leaving your parents. Did you have family?
I did.
Okay.
My whole family's Dutch, so they were all there.
Okay.
But yeah, you learn, I guess because we moved countries when I was so young, you just learn to adapt. Mm-hmm. You just have to. You make friends really quickly. You also don't really cry over lost friendships. Yeah. It is just what it is.
I understand what you mean when you say that, and it's a hard way to grow up. I don't think it's a bad way to grow up.
It's different.
It's different,
yeah.
Right? Most kids now, as a kid, we did move around a lot. I've shared that previously on the podcast. And I always made new friends. So you're the same. We're very similar that way. Don't necessarily have kids from kindergarten that are friends.
No.
Or friends from kindergarten, I should say. You're the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it made you outgoing, I'm sure. You're the therapist, not me. We'll talk more about that after. But okay, so you're back in Holland. You're finishing off high school. Then what comes next? You're going on to post-secondary?
Yeah.
Which part of the world did you land in?
So my parents, in that time, they moved from Saudi Arabia to Bahrain.
Okay.
Which is a lot more liberal.
Okay.
And I stayed in Holland and I started university.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you finish university there?
I did. Okay. So I did 2 degrees, both in psychology. I did cognitive psychology first, which is more about, the brain and perception. How do we form memories, more the research side.
Okay.
And then I had a little bit of a break, and then I picked up clinical psychology after.
Okay.
In Holland.
In Holland.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us how you became Canadian. How did you get to Canada, Marleen? When did you get here, and what did that journey look like?
So I think starting to travel when I was so young, traveling is just something you do.
Right.
So in between my 2 university degrees, I moved to Egypt for a year. Because I wanted to learn how to speak Arabic, because living in Saudi, I could swear real nice. I couldn't say anything.
Right.
So I actually went to language school there for a year. And then after that, I was like, okay, well, now I know what I want to be. Because going to Egypt was also a way for me to figure out, what do I want to do? Cognitive psychology is great, but I tried to get jobs and no one would hire me, which is why I decided, let's just take a break and go to Egypt, because why not?
And you could?
And I could.
Okay. So again.
So from there, I did clinical psychology, and my first job was with the correctional office, like for people who have committed crimes. But in Holland, there's such a thing as more of, instead of prison, they go to a mental health facility.
Oh, okay.
So that's where I worked, and that's not adventurous enough. So I applied for the United Nations, and then I got a job offer to go to Haiti as a trauma therapist.
Okay, so before we get you to Canada,
right?
Let's talk about Haiti, because you are just fresh out of school,
Yeah.
right? You're a couple years out. You're in your 20s.
Yeah, 28.
You were
at the
28
time.
years old. So you join the efforts through the UN. You actually go to Haiti in January of 2010?
No, so that's when the earthquake happened.
Okay.
I got recruited in August.
In August, okay.
And it happened really fast because 2 weeks later, I was on a flight to
You're
Haiti.
on a flight. So for those that don't remember, there was a
7.4 earthquake.
I want to say over 7.
Yeah, over
scale
7.
earthquake it was just outside of Port-au-Prince.
Yeah.
Devastated.
It was,
the country, like just absolute collapse. Over 200,000 were killed, is what I read.
don't really know the numbers.
The numbers are significant.
Yes.
So this happens in January. You're joining the UN efforts. You get deployed. Is that fair to say?
Deployed.
You now go over and you're to help people in Haiti.
I am there for the UN personnel.
For the UN personnel.
Yeah.
Okay. So the UN personnel have been there for 7 months, 8
Or
months,
more.
or more.
They were there before
Okay.
that earthquake.
They've experienced trauma.
Yeah.
You're right out of school.
Yeah.
Yes, you're well traveled. Yes, you can relate to people.
I don't have that much trauma experience,
Okay,
though.
fair. So what are you thinking as you're now sent over to Haiti? What's going through your mind as you're on the plane?
Where do I start? First of all, it was a 2-week decision where I had all the interviews, I had to do all the safety trainings, and then it was like, here's your ticket, here you go. It's a long flight, 18 hours. It's a massive time change. And you have to go to Dominican first. From there, you get on a UN plane the following day. That's one of those tiny planes.
Yeah.
I really like tiny planes.
a little
And you
nerve-wracking.
get taken to Port-au-Prince. So you have a huge jet lag. You are totally tired. And there is one of my colleagues. And she's like, here, great. We're going to get your UN pass first. And here's your office. And here are the colleagues. And here's your work desk. And have fun. And I remember thinking, sitting there like, this is nice.
Did you actually think that, or did you think, holy bleep, what have I done?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what to do.
Okay, so talk us through what did you do? You're there. You've made the journey. You've made a commitment.
Yeah.
You've got people that you have to help, and obviously helping people is a part of your core.
Right. Yeah.
How did you get the nerve to have the very first meeting with someone who's experienced extreme trauma in a work setting environment?
Yeah. Tell
me, what does that feel like?
Scary. I was very scared. Like I knew trauma therapy. I wasn't an EMDR therapist like I am now, but I knew what to do somewhat.
Okay.
So just remember that most of the UN personnel at the time had been there for previous deployments. So
Right.
the UN, I don't remember exactly the years that the UN had been there, but the UN mission had been there for a number of years. They had a gorgeous building in the heart of Port-au-Prince that got completely destroyed. So what they did is they made which was supposed to be a temporary container camp.
Okay.
So that's where I got work. I had a container, the air conditioning didn't work. I had a desk with no chair.
Oh.
So
you stood at your desk?
no, so I had to go figure out
What could
where
you-
are the people here that can help me with getting what I want. I also was one of the first therapists there because I was there very specifically for the UN volunteers.
Okay.
And UN military. So there were at first we were a team of 5 therapists for about 12,000 plus UN personnel. So there was a
What?
lot of
How-
work to be done.
How much pressure?
It was
You were-
huge. So you don't have time to think. So my
Yeah.
very first thought was like maybe sarcastically, this is great. Like, where do I go? What do I do? And then people start coming in. People knock on your door and like go do therapy with them.
And so you've done practical work. You've
Yeah.
done some therapeutic work.
Right.
Obviously, you had to become qualified to be a therapist.
I was a year out of university. I had a
All right.
year experience of doing therapy.
And you're going into really a trauma center.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you remember the first patient you sat with?
Yeah.
elements of that conversation.
Yeah.
So are you feeling like you have a bit of imposter syndrome as you're sitting
At
there?
that time, 100%. What really helped me is that my other colleagues, they were phenomenal.
Okay.
They
so you
were,
had some experience to
they
to
were
tap
so
into.
welcoming, and they really made me feel, at home. I could come to them with any kind of questions. Yeah.
Yeah. So the trauma is such a broad word, right? Trauma can impact people very differently. Some people can see really awful things and it not affect them. Others, it affects them dramatically to the core. What are you doing? How are you helping people? You're listening,
At that time or now? Those are two different things.
We're still in Haiti. We haven't gone to Canada
We're
yet.
still in Haiti.
So what are you doing as a brand new therapist who's in a trauma center?
So I gave them a safe place to talk. I gave them healthy coping skills, just going through, what are they experiencing and how can we make sure that they are not having the flashbacks and the nightmares and the somatic experiences that they had before.
Okay.
Yeah. There was a lot of group work that I did.
Okay.
A lot.
And was that at the recommendation of your colleagues who had been there, or this is something you took from your schooling?
No, this was, they asked for it.
Did they?
Yeah, so like I said, I was there for the UN volunteers and for UN military. So there were different military contingents from different countries. And they would ask one of my colleagues and I to come and do a talk about trauma, stress management, whatever it may be.
And then people feel that they're not alone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're making a face.
Yeah, I just remember one of these group sessions. I was asked by the Nepalese army to come give a stress management talk. And this was the female part of the Nepalese army.
Okay.
No one spoke English.
So how?
So I had someone, I didn't know that. I was just like, a lot of the stuff that I did in Haiti, I was just thrown in blind and like sink or swim kind of thing. So no time to feel self-conscious or to have that imposter, talk constantly. You just do.
You just did it.
So I had this whole presentation that I made on a spreadsheet. Not spreadsheet, PowerPoint.
Mm-hmm.
And I got there, and there's 2 rows of 5 people going like all the way back. So I don't know. Let's say like I'm not even exaggerating if I say 100 people.
And no one spoke a word of English?
No, there was one person who was going to be my translator. No idea if she translated properly or not. Oh, no. I do remember every time I said something, they would clap or they would laugh, even if it wasn't laughable. So
oh, no.
I think there was a little bit of a disconnect there. But they thanked me. I did what I thought I could do. And I remember every time walking on base and I would walk into one of these Nepalese army people, they would want a picture with me, and I felt
you were a celebrity. Look at
that's
you.
Why I was laughing.
I think that. Thank you for sharing that, because that's a real story, right? That happened to you, and like you said, sink or swim. You didn't have a choice, and you're there to help people,
right?
And you did, right? Which is pretty amazing. You mentioned people would come and feel safe, and you created a safe environment for them to talk about their trauma, their experiences. They might not have realized they were experiencing trauma. Mm-hmm. Did you feel safe while you were in Haiti at that time?
For the majority of the time, yeah.
Yeah. Was there ever a moment where you had to ask for help yourself while you're dealing with all this trauma? Like, as colleagues, from a therapeutic perspective, are you talking to each other about what's happening?
Yes. So at that time, I was the only colleague who had flown in after the earthquake. The others were there and had actually lived through the earthquake.
So they're experiencing their own trauma.
Yeah. They had the same experience as everyone else.
And now they're trying to help everyone else.
Yeah. I remember specific conversations. So obviously Haiti, really warm climate.
Yeah.
Excuse me, very hot. So also rainy season. It's very interesting temperature there.
Interesting dynamic.
Yes. So you have these really big white domes, kind of like as tents. And we would have the the chief would ask everyone to come in for these big meetings sometimes. And I had a colleague at the time, and she had a very difficult time going into these domes. So I asked her, what's going on? She said, well, those are the domes where they kept the bodies during the earthquake. So in that sense, yeah, we were there for each other.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't have the trauma that they had. But
you could feel it.
Yeah,
you could feel what they were going through. Yeah. Wow. So would this individual in particular be able to walk into the dome?
Eventually, like it's sink or swim, you have to.
Yeah. But wow, that's you're reliving the trauma, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So how long were you in Haiti?
A year. Felt like a lot longer.
I was going to say, was that the longest year of your life, of your professional life, if you will? Your face, like sink or swim every day.
It is. I learned so much. Right. It was the best experience school I've ever had. Yeah. And because of what I experienced there, I am the therapist who I am now.
Yes. So, my friend, from that comes this.
So how did I get to Canada?
Did you eventually get to Canada?
Well, I'm here now.
Yeah, you're here. When did that happen? So you leave Haiti. Where do you go back? To Holland?
No.
Okay. Egypt? Where?
No.
It's like, where's Waldo? Where
Canada.
did you go? So what made you decide to go to Canada from Haiti?
Love.
Oh, you fell in love.
Yeah. I met my now husband in Dominican Republic on the first R&R that we had. So every 6 weeks, we had to leave Haiti for at least a week.
Rest and relaxation?
Rest and recuperation.
Recuperation. Okay, yes. Rekindle.
Yep.
Yes, so you met your now husband.
Yeah, and he's Canadian. And I never, ever thought I would end up in Canada.
So wait, what was he? Was he vacationing?
He was.
And you met him at the resort.
So
what are the chances?
So a friend and I from the UN, we wanted to go somewhere, didn't know where. So we were looking up resorts. 2 hours before the flight left from the UN flight from Haiti to Dominican, we booked a resort, almost missed the flight. And
and the rest is history,
now
literally.
I'm here.
Okay, what's your husband's name?
John.
Hi, John. You're a lucky guy, John. Okay, so then you decide to return. You decide to visit Canada with John. You come to Canada.
So I came to Canada twice.
Before you decided.
No, we already decided.
Okay. All right.
But I wanted to finish a year in Haiti. I wanted that experience of a whole year. So I finished a year, and in between, he came to visit me twice. I came to visit him twice. And then I came here.
That's amazing. Okay, so literally from that comes this. He lived in the area of Burlington, Hamilton.
Yep.
Yeah, so he grew up here.
No,
he settled here.
So he also comes from a background of travel.
Okay, so you two were meant to have met in the Dominican Republic. Now you're in Canada. We finally landed in Canada. At what point then do you start your practice? And what does this look like? And you've gone through so much. You've helped so many people. You've seen some awful, awful things. You've heard some really dark stories. How do you overcome that trauma, and what propels you to now do what you're doing as a trauma specialist?
So your question about how do I overcome trauma? I think what I did then, from everything that I experienced in Haiti, the good, bad, and the ugly, I made it to fit my story. I don't think purpose comes from what happens to us. Purpose comes from how we choose to move our lives forward. So that's what I did. So I took all of that. And yeah, sometimes it hurts. And sometimes there were things that, I had to process on my own. But I knew after Haiti, I've always wanted a clinic. I didn't just want to be a solo therapist. I wanted to be a clinic. I wanted to have a place where people with different backgrounds feel safe and welcome to process their trauma. So when I got to Canada, obviously, I had to go through the whole, get a work visa first, and then, because I wasn't Canadian. So I spent a lot of time volunteering, both in research, because that always kind of, tickled my mind. And I did pro bono therapy for a charity organization.
And you could do that? The pro bono
It's
work?
volunteering.
It's volunteering.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then eventually when I got my work permit, I decided
This was it.
That was another thing, because I didn't know where do you start? Where do you want to have your clinic? What do you do?
Yeah.
And I remember at one point I had to realize in my own mind, like, no one's going to do it for me. I'm going to have to do it myself.
You're one tough cookie. I'll
So
say that much.
I found a space. I made it into a therapy office, and I remember my very first client.
You do. Of course you do.
Of course. It
Special
always
client.
stays with you.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course. And that client came to you. You don't have to, I mean, you have to be careful with what you divulge, but knowing what your specialties were, obviously.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're able to help that person.
I hope so.
And
I think
countless
so.
others since then. So what year was that?
This was I opened my clinic in 2014.
2014. Okay. And you're still in the same location?
Yeah.
In Burlington?
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So there's a lot of different things to look at from a therapeutic perspective. You meet all kinds of personality types, all kinds of, you deal with primarily trauma, anxiety,
Yes.
grief.
And the reason why those, they might seem very different, but all three are very much interlinked. Not saying that everyone with anxiety has trauma or everyone with grief has trauma, but trauma incorporates a lot of anxiety and grief. And so spreading those out, that's why I decided to make that the focus of the clinic.
Okay. Yeah. And you mentioned EMDR.
Yes.
Can you explain what that technique is and why it's important when addressing trauma, grief, anxiety?
So EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Okay, that sounds like a lot.
It is. So
Okay.
we just say EMDR.
And so what does this do?
So it's a relatively new therapy. It was developed in the 1970s. And what it does is it uses bilateral stimulation. So bilateral stimulation is anything that goes left, right, left, right. Okay. So that could be walking, that could be tapping, it could be sounds, tick, 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 right? It could be eye movements. That's often done.
Right.
In my office, what I use, I have these specific buzzers. They're called tappers, and they feel like a phone vibrating, and it goes left, right, like that. And what that does is it taxates the working memory. So it's if you think.
So does that mean that the working memory, you might remember something that brought you to now that was potentially traumatic, or what do you mean by that?
So when something very traumatic or very stressful happens, the way I explain it is it forms this metaphorical knot in your mind. Metaphorical, not real. Okay. Metaphorical, right? And what happens is when we experience something, say just something, immediate stressful, our brain will go around and around and around to try and process that. So it's in your working memory constantly, and that's why it's so in the top of your mind all the time.
Okay.
Like when something pleasant happens, right? You have working memory, which means you focus on it right now, and then it goes into long-term memory for storage.
Okay.
And if you want to, you can think about it. If you don't want to, it's just filed away.
Okay.
So when something traumatic or highly stressful happens, you have this metaphorical knot in your brain where your brain keeps looping back to it, and that's where you get the flashbacks and the nightmares, and you get the triggers that highly activate you.
Okay.
So what we do with EMDR, first of all, we let the brain process what it needs to process in its own time.
Okay.
So with EMDR, you can talk about the trauma, but you don't necessarily have to talk throughout the whole thing.
Okay.
And if you think about it, so a human being can verbalize 200, 250 words a minute. Your brain can process, give or take, 1,200 words a minute. Wow. So that means with the bilateral stimulation, we let the brain do what it needs to do in its own time. So it's a lot faster. It's a lot more intense. The best way I can explain it is we have a target that we want to process. Part of a trauma, for example, right? And then you have that target in mind. We apply some kind of bilateral stimulation, which could be anything, left, right, left, right. The mind, it's like you go through different experiences in your mind, but very fast. So you wouldn't be able to verbalize that. And then, I see you have a question.
No, but you're feeling something, right?
You mean with the buzzers?
With the buzzers,
yes, so
which is triggering.
The bilateral.
Right.
Yes. So it's like you're like daydreaming in quotations, right? So you have a target that you start with. We apply bilateral stimulation. Your mind goes through all these other situations that might be attached to that somewhat in a neurological sense. And then, but as we do that, it also processes it.
Okay. This is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a question about the metaphorical knot.
Yes.
And you're mentioning flashbacks when someone's experienced trauma. Do people always get flashbacks, or do sometimes people compartmentalize and push it away so that they don't have any? You know something's wrong, and right? But you're not going to deal with it. Is that
so? Yes and yes.
Yes and yes. Okay. Okay. So how do you draw that out?
So first of all, but this goes for any therapy. Therapy only works if the person wants to be in therapy.
Okay.
Right?
And therapy is hard.
It is hard, and not everyone is ready to delve into that, and that is okay. Right?
Yeah.
Everyone has their own time and space in order to process what they need to process.
But eventually you have to process it.
You have to.
Or
I mean, it can lead to other issues, right? So if you keep stomping down your memories, feelings, triggers, it's going to come out somehow. You know, it could and there are so many different ways. Some people might get IBS, other people might get migraines, other people might get anger issues. I mean, you name it.
So a physical...
It can. Not always.
Not always.
But it can.
Okay. But it can present itself physically.
It can.
Through illness or not being able to manage emotions. And the person on the other side of it who doesn't understand what's gone on, right? That can impact your relationships.
Totally.
So
your work, your sleep, your appetite, everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
So dealing with trauma is important.
Yeah.
This is what you do for a living.
Yeah.
Okay. And trauma and anxiety and grief are generally all intertwined. Did I get?
Can be.
Can
Not
be.
always.
Can be.
Yes.
Okay. But I think if you uncover trauma, you have to grieve what happened.
Yeah.
You might be anxious about talking about it.
Exactly. And that's why they can be intertwined.
Yeah. But some people have the capacity just to not
some people
feel.
are really good at switching off their feelings. That doesn't mean you've processed it.
Bingo. Okay. This is a big conversation, and you are very well versed in this
Thank you.
topic, and I appreciate you sharing that little bit. What would you say to someone who's a people pleaser? Do you get people pleasers? And listen, I'm saying this
100%.
because I think a lot of our listeners and people watching today can relate. There's a lot of people pleasing that goes on. And I admire those that are not people pleasers. But it's not necessarily, if at all, a personality trait or characteristic. There's a reason that human beings become people pleasers.
So first of all, remember that psychology is not an exact science. It's a social science.
Right.
Right? So not everything goes for everyone.
Okay.
So typically, I want to choose my words carefully.
Choose your words. Yeah. Typically, when you encounter...
people-pleasing stems from something that someone has experienced in their childhood, not necessarily a trauma.
Okay.
It could be that you've learned in childhood that, I don't know, let's say your mom was an alcoholic, and the only time she paid attention to you was if you would make yourself as small as possible and to not upset the balance, but do whatever she needed to do. And when I say attention, I don't mean necessarily positive. It could be any kind of attention. So what does that teach a little child is that, if I make myself as small as possible and I do whatever this person needs from me or what I think this person might need from me, then I have value.
Okay.
And if you take that now into adulthood...
Yes, that was my next question.
Right.
How does that impact someone later in life?
In so many ways, right? Like it could mean you have no Personal boundaries, it means you never say no. You're always a yes person. You put your own needs last, regardless. Right? There's so many ways in which that could manifest
a lot of people
itself.
that are nodding right now.
Yeah.
I can guarantee this. So how does one overcome this? People pleasing.
I want to change the wording.
Okay.
Not overcome. How can someone learn and reframe?
Ooh, I like this. Okay, so how
Because
does
it's
one
not-
learn and reframe?
Yes. Therapy.
Okay. Talk
No,
about it.
no, that's just one way, right? Like, first of all, you can't change what you're not aware of. So you got to become aware. What are your thoughts? How does that impact you? What are you feeling when you have these kind of thoughts?
But I think those that are genuinely people pleasers, they may get frustrated later in life about always coming last or second, or how do I change this? I'm always so tired. I don't have time for me.
Well, and
Like,
also-
these are conversations,
Totally.
right? Yeah.
And also, like, you, as a people pleaser, you also become tired because you have taught intrinsically, like subconsciously, you have taught the people around you that you will do whatever is necessary, that they don't have to worry whether you are okay with something or not. You've taught them that you will always put them first. And that doesn't mean that everyone around you is toxic or has a narcissistic personality. That just means these are the patterns of engagement that have evolved.
Wow.
Right?
So true. Yeah. So how does one change those patterns?
Realizing that when you change patterns, not everyone around you might like that, which is a very tough one, which is why as soon as people hear that, they're like, okay, forget it. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing because that means I have friends and family who love me. Because that's the thing, when people pleasers feel that if I change myself and someone might not like that, then I'm not lovable.
Ooh, this is a lot to carry.
Right?
And changing all of that changes dynamics, and it's hard.
It's really hard.
Work is hard.
It's not impossible,
No.
but it's hard. It requires dedication. And that's going back to what I said a minute ago. You have to become aware before you make a change. And
Of course.
people need to want to change. Because if you don't want to, it's not going to work. There's no magic bullet for this.
Right. And I might not want to tomorrow, but I might think about this. I might start unpacking things
Right.
on my own
Yeah.
and realize I do want to make a change, right? And that's okay too, because it is a
100%.
journey.
Absolutely.
Okay. So there's much more to uncover when it comes to people
No, this
pleasing.
is just the surface.
This is the surface, the surface. And it's not a bad thing. It's just you can
Yeah.
change that behavior.
Yeah.
Perfectionism, okay?
Oh, isn't that a lovely one?
So many. And I think a lot of women, like, everything has to be perfect. The birthday party for my kid has to be perfect. Dinner for the family has to be
for who?
perfect. I don't know.
And that's
Who?
the thing. And if it's not perfect, then what does that say about you?
I'm bad. I'm not good enough.
Right? And
Is
that's
it?
why
Where does-
not necessarily, but it could mean that. It could mean so many things depending on how the person grew up, what messages they got in their childhood. But that's why perfectionism keeps living on. Because if I am not perfect, then I am.
So, how do we define perfect? Should we care about being perfect? From a therapist perspective, how do you talk someone through that? It
Well-
has to be perfect. It wasn't perfect. I'm so stressed out. I'm angry. I'm upset with myself.
First of all, recognizing there's no such thing as normal, right? Perfection by itself is not bad. Like, I have that too. If I invite friends over, I will be really going around my house, cleaning everything, putting everything away, because I want it to be perfect for when they come over.
Right.
It's not a bad thing. It is just not advantageous if it rules your life.
It's exhausting,
It's
if it rules
exhausting.
your life.
Right.
Okay. So, it can be an unlearned behavior to want to be perfect.
Yeah. And how do you do that?
Yeah.
Well, you got to be aware of what you want to change, and then you can start changing it. So awareness is the key. And when I say that, I have a lot of people who roll their eyes. Oh, here we go with mindfulness,
Ooh, you said it. Mindfulness.
I did.
What does that mean?
It's not just meditation,
Okay.
right? That's what a lot of people think. Mindfulness is also about creating awareness. Creating a space where you can look at yourself, at the people around you, at your experience without judgment and with kindness. And mindfulness is, you can start meditating, right? And then there's a lot of people who I think meditation is wonderful. I don't do it as often as I probably should.
It's okay. You're forgiven.
Thank you. I think it's very beneficial, but mindfulness could also be, like, for example, I love camping. And one of the things that I love to do when I go camping, we go backcountry camping. So in the middle of nowhere, no cell phone reception, nothing.
Of course you do.
Of course, why not, right? Yeah, like you have to get there by canoe because there's nothing else available.
Of course.
And the first thing I do after all, like the tent is set up and everything, I like to listen to the wind in the trees. And you
Sounds
can
wonderful.
follow the wind through all the trees and where it's going. That's mindfulness.
And is it sort of decompressing?
I love
from-
it.
Yeah.
It's like everything just like shrugs off.
Okay. Okay. And you don't have to be perfect. You're giving
No.
yourself permission to be. Is that a good way to put it?
Be your authentic self.
Yes, I love that. Okay. So a lot of people struggle with perfectionism. I'm not going to say it's just women because I know a lot of men
So many
who
people.
also
Yeah.
struggle with this. But you can talk about it and you can
100%.
find ways to be. Okay. So the word sorry.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
Canadian.
Oh,
You're
yes.
Canadian
Yes, you
now.
are.
Yes.
Yes, I
and
am.
we tend to say this word a lot. Is it because we're polite, or could it be a result of experiencing something as a younger version of ourselves where we were apologizing for speaking up? Like, why do we say, I'm sorry?
It's funny, because the Canadian politeness, it always goes to I'm sorry, but coming from a different culture like Holland is very direct. And I must say for myself, now going back to Holland, I'm like, oof, you're way too direct.
Really? You
Yeah.
feel that now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But I can see the two cultures and I can appreciate them. And saying sorry is not always seen as polite towards someone else from a different culture.
Because you're making an excuse? Like,
Yeah,
why?
because like if you say you're sorry, that means what? That now everything needs to be forgiven because you're sorry.
Because you're sorry. What are you sorry for?
Right.
That was said a lot as a kid. What are you sorry for? I don't even know. I'm just sorry. Right?
Yeah.
So how do there's people that apologize for showing up in a
everything.
room,
Yeah, and-
for just being here.
Right.
Where does that come from?
Well, again, it's not like
Could come from.
Yeah, could. There's not a one reason that fits all, right? But it could come from feeling like you couldn't be yourself when you grew up, or feeling that being your own authentic self was too loud, too much, too whatever, right? So now you kind of make yourself small. It can, not for everyone. It's a learned behavior, right? Because everyone in Canada says they're sorry for everything.
Almost everyone. But yeah, we do, and people, other countries poke fun at us for it. But there's a deeper meaning often for a
yes.
person who is sorry for just being present,
Right.
Or being.
Because then you got to ask yourself, like, if you're sorry for just being present, like, where does that come from?
Okay, so Marleen, you mentioned that someone has to want to have therapy.
Yes.
How do I know I want to have therapy? What is there a sign that and everyone's different. I'm asking you tough
Yeah.
questions here. And no two people are exactly the same, but how do I know I want therapy? I might think I need it, but how do I get to that, okay, now is the time? What would you say to somebody who's in that position right now?
I think that's a very valid question. We get a lot of people inquiring about therapy. Also, a lot of people who inquire and then never respond.
Really?
And I think it might be because of that. Because how do you know that you're ready? How do you know that you want this, right? Therapy is not about this sitting with a table and coffee and just chit-chatting. Therapy is hard work.
Yes.
It can be intense. It can be painful. But also, no growth comes from avoiding pain, right? And learning from your experiences. And I think everyone has their own reasons for wanting to start therapy. And all reasons are valid. I think if there is something within you that you feel, this is really keeping you stuck in life, or this is something, that you don't quite know how to navigate by yourself, those could be valid reasons.
I think you hit it right on the head. And it doesn't have to be because you remember something awful that happened to you
No.
that you need to talk about. Sometimes we just need to talk.
Yep.
And do you, I mean, some people are uncomfortable talking. Do you ever sit in a room with a patient, a client, and there's quiet?
Oh, silence is the best.
Is it?
It's the most uncomfortable, but also a space where so much growth can happen.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a wonderful message to leave everyone with today, because you don't always have to be talking. The silence is beautiful.
100%.
Wow. Okay, because I think a lot of people would worry, well, I don't know what to say. I don't know where to start. I don't know.
A funny perspective maybe from a therapist. As a therapist, I had to learn how to be okay in silence.
How hard was that?
It was hard. It was a lot of work on myself, a lot of, like, it feels, first of all, when you have silence, it feels awkward and you start to fill it up with stuff. And from the therapist, if I feel uncomfortable with the client being quiet and I start filling that space, like, what's happening?
Right.
Right?
It's like a spiral.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
So-
Thanks for sharing that from a therapist perspective through your lens. Listen, Marleen Filimon with, it's called Private Matters Psychotherapy in Burlington, Ontario. People can look you up. We'll put all of your contact information. You are a trauma therapist, and you founded this clinic, and you have others working with you.
Yes.
Remarkable. You have been an absolute joy to talk to. I hope you will come back another day.
I would love to.
Thank you so much. You're from that comes this story is quite, it's not an A to Z. It's lots of stuff happened to you. And we're all very grateful that you landed in Canada. Thanks,
you.
John, for getting her here. The love story continues, and I wish you all the very best, and we will stay connected. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Healing doesn't happen all at once, my friends. It begins with an awareness, with learning how our bodies carry what we've lived through maybe, and with recognizing that anxiety or discomfort often signal, it's not a failure, but signal that we need to put some attention on ourselves. Self-care, self-awareness, and it's hard. Therapy is hard work. When we name our experiences and meet them with curiosity instead of judgment, we create space for real change and real opportunity for ourselves. So if something in today's conversation resonated with you, know that you're not alone. Know that there are people in this world who are here to help. Reach out. Healing is possible at your own pace, in your own time. There is no clock telling you it has to be today, tomorrow, or next week. You can make the journey yours. And believe in yourself and your inner strength, because from that comes this. With love.